Wanted to do an update on the Canyon Aeroad now that I've had it for a couple hundred kilometers. Just give you my initial impressions of how I've been liking it, what it's been like to ride, and the overall experience. So the first half I'm going to talk about feel and what my kind of ride quality has been like, and then the second half of the video I'm going to talk about actual numbers and performance of the bike, and that'll be somewhat interesting. I think, like, the subjective feel stuff does matter. It matters a lot, actually, because if you're riding a bike that you hate the feel of, obviously you're not going to want to ride it as much, and it's ultimately not going to be a success. But I think when I watch a lot of these bike review videos, they don't really talk about the performance aspect because they don't either have the time or the wherewithal to do decent comparisons. And I won't say that what I've done is the most scientific analysis ever, but I think you'll see that I do have some basis for making the performance claims that I'm going to make about the bike. So anyway, stay tuned, and we'll get into it in a second. Alright guys, so my initial impression of the feel of the bike is that it feels very fast. Coming from a Specialized Roubaix on my previous bike, I kind of felt that this was, obviously this is a way more aggressive bike. The fit is more aggressive, the position is more aggressive. I'm way further forward on the bike, I'm way lower on the front, so it feels obviously like the handling is a lot less secure than the Roubaix. And I'm pretty certain that a lot of the performance increases that I've noticed have to do with the fit and the position, more so than the aerodynamic qualities, although it's impossible to say what is attributable to the aerodynamic properties and what is attributable to the fit. The two sort of go hand in hand. So have I enjoyed it? Yes, I have enjoyed this. My big worry was that, especially considering how aggressive the fit on this bike is and how aggressive the position is, my big worry was that I would be in a situation where, sure, the bike is really good for a fast, hard hour of intervals, but not so good for a 3, 4, 5 hour ride, and I would only really want to ride it like one day a week. Turns out that is not the case at all. I've done 100 kilometer ride so far on it. I've done a bunch of hour and 2 hour rides on it, but 100 kilometer ride so far. And by the end, I felt the exact same as I felt on the Specialized Roubaix. I didn't feel particularly crampy. I didn't feel like my back hurt. I didn't feel like my hands hurt. I didn't feel any sort of negativity that you'd expect with a bike with a much more aggressive position. I'm not the most flexible person, but I'm also not the most inflexible person either. So the position over the long haul didn't bother me. One thing I have noticed, and we'll kind of get to that when we talk about the performance, is that even on the tops on this bike, I'm faster than I am in the drops on my Roubaix. So even on a long ride, where like a 3.5 hour ride, I'm not going to be in the drops 24/7 on that whole ride. I'm going to be on the tops a lot, and being on the tops, I'm still faster than I was on the Roubaix. So another big change was going to mechanical rim brakes as opposed to hydraulic disc brakes on the Roubaix. Not gonna lie, it's a downgrade in stopping power. I definitely preferred the feel of the and security of the hydraulic disc brakes, but I didn't have too much of a problem. I live in Florida. It's very flat here. A lot of my rides are in the country. There's not a lot of stopping and starting, not a lot of street lights to deal with, not a lot of traffic to deal with. So I haven't really run into a situation where I felt like it mattered that I didn't have the same stopping power. This is a very serious thing to consider if you're looking at buying a Canyon, is where you live and the type of riding you do. If you feel you need the security of the disc brakes, get them. Do not worry about the weight penalty. Yes, I did save about 500 grams of weight going with this, and that's not an inconsiderable amount of weight. But if you are in the situation where you need the stopping power, by all means, spend the weight to get it. As far as the braking power goes, yes. Carbon rim brakes are significantly worse than hydraulic disc brakes. Significantly worse. That's probably the biggest downgrade in feel for this bike. The other upgrade, I suppose you could say, is the wheel quality themselves. And going from an alloy box section to a deep section carbon, the feel of the ride is a lot better, especially when going over normal tarmac. I haven't gone over any particularly bumpy sections or anything approaching off-road where the Roubaix might have performed a little bit better, but these definitely feel like they really flow over pavement really well. One question that someone might have is, well, dude, you're comparing a very relaxed fit Roubaix to a very aggressive Canyon, so it's going to be, obviously everything is going to be in favor of the Canyon. Well, before I owned the Roubaix, my bike before that was a Tarmac SL Pro. And that was a very aggressive road bike as well. And I'm going to try to find some data on comparing when I rode the Tarmac to this bike. But it's not that I'm not used to an aggressive stance on a bike. So it's not completely comparing apples to oranges. I can tell you that this is definitely overall, for the type of riding I do, a faster bike. Now, I should also mention, it bears mentioning that I am used to riding solo. I do not ride in any of the local group rides because out of the last 4 local group rides I've been on, there were 2 crashes, bad ones, and I don't really feel comfortable riding with those guys anymore. But I still do stuff out of town and races and stuff, so not like I'm totally riding alone, but almost 99% of my training rides are solo. So there is a big benefit to an aero bike and stuff with aero qualities for me. So anyway, that is it for sort of the feel of the bike. Next we'll talk a little bit about the actual data, comparing some rides on Strava over similar courses and similar weather conditions, and let you guys draw your own conclusions on that. All right, guys, let's look at some data from Strava on the comparison. So the first 2 rides that I'm going to compare are pretty good because they were virtually the same route and they were done on the same day and had similar weather. So this first one I did in the morning at 6 a.m. I rode on the Specialized. I did a normalized power of 225 watts, and my average speed was 19.9 with a cadence of 19.9 miles an hour, I should say. This is fairly typical for what I would say I would get on a flat ride with, I don't know, only a little bit of wind from the Roubaix. It's right in line with the effort levels that I've seen that I need to get about a 20 mile an hour average is about 225 watts on the bike. And then I want to compare that to the ride I did that afternoon on the Canyon. As you can see here, I did 228 watts of normalized power, so 3 watts more. 3 watts, not a big deal in terms of speed, but you can see my miles per hour went from 19.9 to 21.9. So that's 2 miles an hour more on the Canyon compared to the Roubaix. 2 miles an hour is quite a bit. We're looking at, like, what does that come out to be, like 3.5 kilometers an hour more? Like, that is a huge gain. For it's a huge gain for a solo ride, especially only for an hour ride. It just night and day difference going from 225 watts doing 19.9 miles an hour to 228 watts and doing 21.9. You can kind of see. I got a KOM. I mean, this KOM is crap. I didn't make this. Whoever made this, like, the KOM's weird. So I mean, I'm not particularly proud of that, and that's not why I picked this ride. But I just wanted to compare, same exact day, a few hours apart, 2 miles an hour exactly faster at the same power. That's that's just so enormous that it's beyond belief. So that is on an hour ride where I was doing. So for me personally, 225 watts in that ballpark is the low end of tempo for me, or maybe mid tempo, mid zone 3. So we'll just say it's a zone 3 ride, low to mid zone 3. So what does a longer ride, a more zone 2 ride look like comparing these two bikes? So these aren't the exact best comparisons because it's a different route, but it'll kind of give you an idea. So this is the Roubaix, and this was a 75-mile ride. So that's something for you non-Americans. It's like 120 kilometers. And I did it at a speed at 208 watts, so that's definitely zone 2 for me, at 18.7 miles an hour. Not particularly fast, but hey, is what it is. And that's probably compared to. I think I probably didn't have the best wind situation. I think I probably had. I probably had a bit of a headwind on the way out, and the tailwind on the way back wasn't so great. I think the wind shifted a little bit on me, so that I had more of like a crosswind. I had a headwind on the way out, and then a crosswind on the way back. But nonetheless, I would say for let's say 210 normalized power on a flat ride, this is probably slightly on the low side, but not crazy on the low side. I can show a different one, but let's compare that to a metric century, 100 kilometers that I did on the Canyon. This is 205 watts of normalized power, so 3 watts less, and I did 20.6. So again, about almost exactly 2 miles an hour faster on the Canyon. Yes, it's a different route, but nonetheless, and it's shorter. It's definitely 20 miles shorter, or 10 miles shorter, but the power is the exact same, and it's still 2 miles an hour more. If the argument is going to be that, oh, well, if you did 75, you'd have been slower, I don't know about that. I mean, another 25 minutes wouldn't have changed my normalized power that much. I might have lost like maybe a watt more. Who knows? But I think the story here is that you can see that riding solo, the Canyon is still significantly faster. And the comparison here is that I think most people would agree that on the 1 hour ride where I was pushing tempo, people would say, well, yeah, that makes sense because the faster you're going, the more an aero bike is going to benefit you. But as you can see here, even on a longer ride, a 3 hour ride and a 4 hour ride, I was considerably faster on the Canyon, and I didn't get punished. So people might argue that, oh, because you're in a less comfortable position, you're going to get punished. And maybe that's the case for people that are on a bike that they shouldn't be on. If you're on a bike that doesn't fit you and it's putting you in an uncomfortable position, yeah, you're probably not going to be as fast as you could be, because you're going to start hurting after an hour or so, and you're going to want to slow down, and you're not going to be able to push the same watts. But I think it's pretty clear from this, hopefully, that I didn't have a problem pushing the same watts, and I was faster to show for it. So I guess the question would be, why would anyone buy a Roubaix? And I will honestly say, yes, I was comfortable in the more aero, the more forward, the lower canyon Aeroad position, but it's undeniable that the Roubaix is more comfortable. It absorbs bumps a lot better. It's a more upright position, so at hour 3 and 4, you don't feel it as much. You're a bit fresher. If I was forced to start doing intervals at the end of both of these rides, I probably would have been a little bit fresher on the Specialized for sure. Would I have been faster? Probably not, but I'd still feel fresher. So there's a lot to be said, and that's probably one of the reasons why the Specialized Roubaix exists, is so that you feel fresher. And then especially if you're riding in a peloton or even in just like a pace line with your local club, the aero benefits aren't going to be as great as what you see with me riding here. And I'll go to activities just to compare a longer ride. Let's see. Here we go. So this was on the Roubaix. This is a good comparison. So this is the exact same watts. So the Specialized, or the Canyon, I did for 3 hours on the dot at 205 watts, and I had a 20.6. So this is back on the Specialized. I did 5 hours, 13 minutes at 205 watts, and my average speed was 19.3. Probably the difference being that I had a little bit more beneficial wind than that 18.7 mile an hour ride. I had a headwind on the way out and a tailwind on the way back, so it brought my average speed up. Nonetheless, the Canyon still over a mile an hour faster, so over almost 3 kilometers faster an hour than the Specialized. So on short rides it's faster for me, and on long rides it's faster for me. One thing I will say is yesterday, in fact, I did a century, and I took the Roubaix out. Why? Because it wasn't a very nice day. It was raining on and off. The wind was a little blowy. I started my ride at 3:30 in the morning. I wanted disc brakes, so it's not. Even though, yeah, the Canyon's faster isn't everything. A lot of times you decide what bike you're pulling out based on a lot of other factors than just speed. If I had wanted to ride the Century in 4 hours and 50 minutes, I would have pulled out the Canyon. But I mean, speed really isn't relevant. What's relevant is power, of course, as everyone who trains with power knows. Power is what's relevant. You can get just as good a workout doing 200 watts on the Roubaix as you can doing 200 watts on the Canyon. So at the end of the day, you have to really look at your sort of riding and decide what sort of riding and what sort of conditions you're going to want. I've kind of laid out in this video some of the reasons why I still take the Specialized out on the road, why I would ride the Roubaix, and a lot of it has to do with comfort, and also with the superior braking power of the discs. But I've also laid out why the Canyon Aeroad has been mind-blowing for me in terms of speed, in terms of an upgrade and just miles per hour. We're cyclists. We like to go fast. If I had the option, if I knew I was going to go out for a 1-hour ride, just try to get a quick ride in before work, what do I want to? And I'm going to do the same workout, and it's only an hour, so like all day comfort doesn't really come into play. Yeah, I'm going to take the faster bike out. That's just how it goes. So yeah, that's basically it. You have to really look at the sort of riding you want to do. But so this is an initial impression video, and I want to say that my initial impression is that the Canyon Aeroad it exceeded my expectations. I expected it to be faster, and it was by even more than I expected it to be. I from a lot of videos on aero bikes I've seen, they were saying, "Oh, you can expect going from a non-aero road bike to an aero road bike, you can expect like 1 kilometer an hour improvement solo at whatever wattage." And I've noticed a much faster gain than that. So I'm happy. It exceeded my expectations. My other expectation was that it was going to be much less comfortable than the Roubaix. And while it is less comfortable than the Roubaix, the position is more aggressive, and there's simply no denying that. It's not so much worse that I would turn it down when it came to doing a longer ride. I will take the Aeroad on longer rides. It's just depends on the situation. Some days I'll grab it, some days I won't. So it exceeded my expectations in terms of comfort as well. So anyway, I hope that gives you guys a good breakdown on the bike. And if you have any questions, hit me up in the comments below. And while you're here, if you're on Strava, give me a follow on there and say what's up. All right, thanks guys. Talk to you later.